What's up, Internet? My name is Michael Cook, this is Blue Giant Media, and we're here to connect through gaming. Today we're going to take a look at Tiny Epic Mechs by Scott Almes and published by Gamblin Games. We're going to take a quick rules overview before we come back and I let you know what I like, what I don't like, and who may or may not like Tiny Epic Mechs. Alright, so here I've got Tiny Epic Mechs set up for 2 players. This is a tournament-style, arena battle with some area control aspects. Each player is going to be starting based off the setup. They're going to choose which base they want to start in, because these can be obviously put wherever you want. It's going to be a different board every time, but the Mighty Mech is going to be in the middle, and you're generally going to be in opposite corners. And each round is going to have each player choosing 4 of their 8 cards that they want to use, and they're going to program them based off of what action they want to do and what direction they want to move while they do that action. So things that you can do is you can move down and collect. When you collect, you look at where you are and every area that you control with either a mine or a turret, and you get that resource. So like your home base has both resources, money and energy, and then this one's got energy, so I would be able to get 2 energy and 1 credit. And then, but you're going to be choosing 4 different actions that you're going to do. Say I wanted to do, something like, let's say collect, power up, and then, see, is there anything over there that's, yeah, it can be done. All right, and then purchase. And then this player over here, and then once you've chosen, you're going to go ahead and cover them up. So that basically you'll choose them and place them down so that your opponent can't see what you're doing, because at the same time they're going to be doing their own programming. And let's say over here this player wants to focus on, they're going to deploy a mine, they're going to then they're going to then they're going to deploy a turret, then they're going to collect, then they're going to and then they're also going to power up. So once they've done that, then they'll go ahead and cover their stuff up. So then this player, you'll go back and forth. They're going to move this way and they're going to collect, which I already did. This player is going to go like this. They're going to move and deploy a mine. When you deploy a mine, then you're going to pay the cost in credits equal to the space that you're on. So here, and I would have started at 3, I'm going to go ahead and pay 2 credits. And when you do that, then you get to choose your mines, and your mines have either 1, 2, 3, or 4 on them. So I could choose this one, it's a 4, which I would add 4 to the 2 that's there. If my opponent steps on that space, they immediately take 6 damage, which at the beginning of the game in your base, in your regular pilot form is instant death. So that's kind of nice. Then we'll come back over here. I'm going to go this way, and I'm going to collect again. So I'm going to get 1 more money and 2 more energy. Because again, 1 money, 1 energy, and a second energy. We'll go over here. This player is going to go this way and deploy a turret. Now turrets, you pay the cost equal to the space you're on in energy. So I'm going to go 1, 2, and I'm going to put a turret on there. Turrets do less damage, and they do it after, like if we had combat on a space, like mine does damage immediately. If this person was here and I step on there, the mine does damage to me before I actually do an attack, which could kill me first. Whereas if I go over here and I go in here, I'm going to start the combat, and if they retreat, then the turret's going to do damage to me. But even though the turrets don't do as much damage or damage as easily or readily, they score more points for you in scoring rounds, because in scoring rounds you score points for the zone that they're in and what type of thing. So here this is a mine, so it scores you points equal to the square that you're in, so 2 points, 2 points. But turrets score double, so that'd be 4 points. And then you also score points based off the square that you occupy. And even if it's the same, in this case, we would score that place 3 times, twice for the turret and once for me. And then you score points if you're in the Mighty Mech. So that's the difference between turrets and mines. When they do damage, what they cost in order to put them out in terms of whether it's money or credits, credits or energy, and they score points differently. So then we would go over here. This player is going to go and power up. When you power up, you pay 5 credits, and that lets you flip this board over, which gives you more health because you are going to jump into your mech armor. So I'll go ahead and hop in there. I'm going to remove that weapon because we don't have that one right now. We have this energy sword. All right, so we've gone there. We've gone down, over, And now we are right here. Okay, then this player is going to move over and collect. They're going to get 1, 2, 3 money, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2 energy, 1, 2 energy. All right, then this player is going to go this way, and they're going to perch. Actually, you know what? No, I'm going to go this way. Revision history, because whenever you have full health and you're in this mech suit, and you enter the space with the Mighty Mech, boom, you automatically jump into it. Now there is a drawback to that though, in that the Mighty Mech, while it's big and has more health, you cannot heal while you are in it, and you cannot use basic weapons while you are in it, and you also lose your character's ability because each character has a power. This one right here says that you can spend 2 energy to go into ad hoc mode for your final action. Ad hoc mode is really cool because it lets you do whatever you want of the 8 cards. So you can do any action that you want, even one that you've already done, which is really powerful. So as of right now, I have no items. I scored 2 points, however, for jumping in, and I was entering that space to purchase. So I can't use this energy sword. I still have it though, because it's worth a point at the end of the game. I get to choose which side of the mech I'm going to have because there is at least a special power. This one right here says when resolving a normal movement, you can move further in that direction by spending an extra energy. So you can move further. This one, Force Field, you can take 1 fewer damage from mines and turrets for every 2 money you spend, so you can stay in there longer. I'm going to go ahead and opt for mobility, and I have 11 health. Right now I have no weapons, but hey, I'm jumping in there to purchase, and I've got 7 energy, which means I can afford either one of... Actually, I can afford this one. Ooh, 5 energy. It's worth 4 points at the end of the game, which is pretty nice, and it does a pretty hefty amount of damage. Ooh. But it also is self-destructive. It does a lot of damage, though. I'm going to go ahead and grab it. It's worth points, and it does a lot of damage. All right, I'm going to grab that. And I was going to go this way and power up, but that's not going to work anyway because I don't have enough of this. So I'm going to do another cheat, and I'm going to put something different in there. And it doesn't really matter what it is. Let's say I'm going to go down and purchase. Well, I'm going to go this way. And I can't... I don't get to do the action because I initiated combat. If I initiate combat, I get a point immediately, and then I'm going to attack. So I'm going to attack with this grenade launcher. Normally you can only do the top attack, so I'm just going to do 1 point of damage. If, however, my opponent had, attacked first and I was responding with this, I'll illustrate it after I do this. So you're going to do 1 point of damage to that Mighty Mech. When you do a damage, you get a point. So then, so now it's tied right now at 2. I've used this weapon, so I'm going to tap it. Now this person gets to use this weapon. So if my opponent had used a melee weapon, or a ranged weapon, and I'm responding with the rocket launcher, area effect, which is the pink cards, counters ranged effects. So if my opponent had attacked me with the pulse pistol, there should be 4 of those showing, had attacked me with a pulse pistol, then I countered with a rocket battery, I would get to do the bottom of the 2 actions, which is usually, well, I think it's pretty much always better. But instead, I'm going to go ahead and do 3 damage in return. So I will go ahead and do 3 damage to my opponent, so I'm going to get 1, 2, 3 damage, but I do damage myself 1 in the process. And I'll go ahead and go like that. It's going to come back, and it'll go back and forth until a player is either killed or a player has no weapon with which to respond. So this player does not have a weapon, so they can't respond, so they're going to have to retreat. And you can retreat in any direction that you want. So I could go ahead and retreat over here if I wanted to. And whenever you retreat, your opponent is going to get a point. All right, so that's the way combat works, and then after everything's done, everything gets ready back up. Now, if that had happened earlier in the round over here, being forced to move to a different square can really mess up what's left over here. So that's when you get to go into ad hoc mode for the rest of the round. Now, if you go into ad hoc mode for the rest of the round, you are not able to then immediately counterattack. You have to do something different, and then after that, you are free to move back in to attack that player. But for the rest of the round, so if it happens in the first of the 4 rounds, before you even take your first card, that means for all 4 of those actions, you get to choose what you're doing. So that can be really nice. If you're defeated in the Mighty Mech, as I said, you are just going to be jumping out, and then the opponent who defeated you will get to jump right into it. If you're defeated by a mine or a turret, then you just hop out of it, and someone else who has full health in their mech suit is able to jump into there automatically. And you're going to keep going like that through 6 rounds. You score at the end of the 2nd, 4th, and 6th round. And as I said, you're going to score points based off of the zone that your mines are in, double the zone that your turrets are in, the zone that you are in, and then if you're in control of the mighty mech. Then at the end of the game, you look at your weapons that you have, whether they're equipped or not, and then add up the points of those, and whoever has the most points is going to be the winner. Now that you have a pretty good idea of how to play Tiny Epic Mechs, I want to let you know what I like about the game. First off, I'm a big fan of programming type games. Well, I guess not a big fan, but I'm a pretty big fan. My number 2 game of all time is Space Alert right here. Awesome game. I love programming type games. I'm also a pretty big fan of Adrenaline, which is this kind of tournament style game. And those both come into play here, which makes it a good stepping stone for newer gamers to get into these types of games. So I think it's a really good game to play with people who are relatively new to gaming, because it's not that complicated, especially if you have someone who's pretty good at explaining it. So if you get a chance to give them a good rules overview, they can jump right in and play this pretty quickly. Other things that I really like about the game, obviously the item equals are fun, they're kind of gimmicky, but I like them. I think it's a pretty good kind of building off of a component that everybody recognizes within our hobby. Now, I'm not really big on super confrontational games, and it sucks when you play sometimes games like Robo Rally where when you get bumped, everything's crazy, which means you have to go into the game expecting some chaos. But in this case, I like that even though you're attacking each other, you got the respawn, which is a lot like a lot of video game first-person shooters, but it's also when you lose a battle and you get moved into a different adjacent space, then you get to go in ad hoc mode, which it makes it better in a lot of ways, because then you can really choose and react to what's going on, which I think it's really a lot of fun. So it kind of makes it so if you end up losing a combat, it's not that big of a deal, especially if you manage to at least put a decent amount of damage on your opponent. You still scored some points. Maybe they got a little bit more, but now for the rest of the round, especially if it happened like in the first round, you got the rest of the round to do exactly what you want to do, which is really a nice advantage that kind of makes up for having lost that battle. It's a really good salve to cover up the pain. One thing I don't like about the game is, I love that it's modular. I love that it's small. And this is a complaint that sometimes happens with quite a few of these tiny epic games, is that once you set it up, it's not super cohesive. The pieces, they move around, and I guess fiddly is the word, but I wish that it would just sit down and everything, maybe it's the OCD in me. I don't like seeing like the seams between the cards opening, and then, there's gaps between the little tiles that you're moving around from room to room or whatever. I just want it to be all seamless. I want a board. I don't know. There's not really any way necessarily to fix that. It's not a big thing, but there it is. Going back to things that I like, the variety in weapons, the kind of like rock, paper, scissors aspect of it, I think is really fun. Keeping everything hidden makes it interesting. I know some people have complained that it's a little bit reductive. You kind of know what each other is doing, and you're just basically acting out what's a foregone conclusion. In my experience so far, I don't find that to be true. I find that since you can hold the cards in your hand, you don't necessarily know, unless you've got a really good memory, which I'm not the kind of person who likes to get that into the weeds with things. So I take it for what it is, and I really enjoy the game in that sense. It doesn't bother me at all. I like the rock, paper, scissors aspect where, you've got this card, and depending on how you play your cards, you can either get a regular benefit or a better benefit. The variety of them is pretty fun. The one thing I don't like is it seems like it's overly difficult to get into that Mighty Mech, and the Mighty Mech just seems, it's not as good as it could be, I feel like. Because it's hard to get into, and because it only uses advanced weapons, you have to kind of accrue a few of those before you even get into it. Otherwise, once you get into it, you're kind of a sitting duck. You're going to lose a lot of combats anyway, and you can't heal. You're basically just walking around, yay, you got 2 points, but it's not necessarily going to be the best option for you. I find like the best case scenario is to hop in that thing at the tail end of the second round. Then you've kind of like stocked up. You get the points for jumping in it. You get the points for being in it during one of the scoring rounds. And then, you know, maybe next round, in the third round, you have a chance to get another weapon before you actually might get involved in a combat where you're basically depleted on weapons because you start with basic weapons. So I find that the Mighty Mech is a little bit underwhelming. People who are going to like the game, if you like head-to-head combat type games, if you like Robo Rally, if you like Space Alert, if you like these programming type games, this is a great addition to that. It's not that complicated. It is really easy to pull out with people who've never played before, and because of the kind of the toy quality, the toy factor of the game, it makes it really accessible. So it's a great accessible game that actually has a pretty decent amount of things going on, but because of the way it's packaged, a decent amount of it is intuitive. I just remembered one other thing that I'm not a big fan of, and that's the stacking, covering the cards. I like that you can do that. It works, but I want to be able to flip them. It just makes it fiddly in another way on top of some of the other fiddly things that I've already mentioned. Just make it so you always flip the same direction. It's just kind of screwy having to place. Basically, it makes it so you have to, because if you place a card down and then cover it up, now you're only looking at 6 cards instead of the 7 to choose from. So you basically have to choose one, put it face down, choose the next, and once you've chosen all 4 face down, then you have to pick them back up, remember which direction you wanted it to go, then cover it and lay it down, and do that for each of the 4. It just makes it fiddly. So for me, just putting the cards face down and making sure that it's a rule you're always going to flip them from front, flip them outward, or always flip them towards you. Whatever it is, it just needs to be consistent. Other people who are not going to like this game as much, if you don't like the best laid plans, if you don't like getting screwed around with, it might not benefit you. It might not make your day getting to do ad hoc mode. Maybe you still feel attacked. You still feel like you got screwed over, even though basically you got some points, they got a little bit more points, and you have a little bit more flexibility at the end of the round. It may not feel like that for you. That may not be your perspective on things. I've played with plenty of people who just don't like getting messed with, and even though that messing can be a blessing in disguise, it's hard for some people to wrap their minds around that. So if you're one of those people who just doesn't like being poked and prodded, then it's still not going to be your thing, because it's still going to be in the back of your mind that, why do they keep singling me out? When in a way, if you're playing with 4 players and all 3 of them keep attacking you, well, each of those combats, you're getting points because you're doing some damage back to them. Even if you keep dying and respawning, you're still getting to do damage. So if you're getting, for instance, if each round these guys are each attacking you, they're getting 4 points and you're getting about 3 points each of those battles. Well, then they've all cumulatively scored 4 points each, and you scored 9 points, even if you died twice. But some people just won't be able to feel that in the moment. So if you're one of those, steer clear. It is still, even though it is a very friendly head-to-head game in that aspect, at least from my perspective, because I'm usually not big on confrontational games. If you can't wrap your head around and ignore the fact that you are being attacked and actually see it in some ways as something that you can benefit from, all right, I've gone on that enough. Overall, I'm just going to say I really enjoy the game quite a bit. I'm not quite sure if I like it more than Tiny Epic Quest. Those are my 2 favorite and the only 2 that I've still got in my collection. But it's up there. I really enjoy it. I definitely give it a solid 8 out of 10. Enjoy it. I'll get it out happily, especially right now. Now, who knows? Maybe 2 years from now, it might be one of those things that I seldom get out. But right now, I want to get it to the table, and I've played it about 10 times or so, and I just want to play it more still. Also, it is a pretty fun solo game. It's a little bit wonky. Some of the things are a little bit unclear in the rule book, but overall, it simulates the randomness of people moving around, and although it is easy, might have to think of some kind of a handicap for the solo, because it is a little bit on the easy side. But anyway, those are my thoughts on Tiny Epic Mechs. Alright, so let's go ahead and take the spotlight off of Tiny Epic Mechs by Scott Almes and published by Gamblin Games. If you want to know more about Tiny Epic Mechs, take a look in the description section where you can find a link to my unboxing as well as a real-time setup and a little bit more extended gameplay sample, and you can also find a link there to macronovaGames.com. And if you like what you see, please like, share, and subscribe, and let me know in the comment section below if you've got any feedback, corrections, criticisms, your own reasons why you may like or dislike this type of game, because I just like to connect with you in regards to this game and other games in general. Thank you so much for watching, and have a wonderful day.